Okay, so the last video on this YouTube channel was about this same game. The United States and Sweden, where the Americans won 2-1 in overtime and advanced to the semifinals. But the last video on this channel went over Team Sweden and Elias Pettersson, how he was deployed, how he was used, whether or not there was a problem with all that. In this video, instead of talking about Pettersson and Sweden, I wanted to talk about the other Pettersson is not a former Vancouver Canuck. I wanted to talk about the other Vancouver Canucks related guy on the opposite side. And no, we're not talking about JT Miller on Team USA. I wanted to talk about Quinn Hughes. And because I am also a Detroit Red Wings fan, I thought this was a great opportunity to not only talk about Quinn Hughes, who doesn't happen to play for Detroit or Vancouver these days, and I also wanted to talk about Dylan Larkin, captain of the Red Wings, one of the best players on the team this year, and a guy who is starting to come out as a very big mentorship link to one Mr. Quinn Hughes. Now, if you had missed yesterday's hockey festivities at the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympic Games in Italy, Team USA beat Team Sweden 2-1 in overtime, advancing to the semifinals. Goals were scored by D-Boss D-Lark's Dylan Larkin. Halfway through the entire hockey contest, Larkin tips in a Jack Hughes shot. It's assisted by Quinn Hughes. It's a beautiful tip right by Jacob Markstrom. And then in overtime, it's Quinn Hughes who gets the goal from Matt Boldy and Austin Matthews. Now, that in itself is a very nice angle. Hey, a guy who captains a team I cheer for in Detroit scored a goal, and a guy who used to captain my top team in Vancouver ended up scoring the overtime winner. That doesn't necessarily make me feel any better about him quitting on the Vancouver Canucks, but still, nice to see him have success now, I say, with a pouting face. Anyways, the reason we're talking about Quinn Hughes and Larkin is because of an interview that Mr. Quinn Hughes did with Jackie Redmond. I was going to say Jackie Redmond of Sportsnet, but then I was like, wait a minute, no, she's on WWE. Then I was like, wait a minute, no, she does NHL Network. She does a lot of stuff. So Jackie Redmond, obviously very accomplished NHL broadcaster, she went out there and interviewed Quinn Hughes, asking him about his mentor, Dylan Larkin. Larks has been a big brother to me. I think I met him at a frat party when I was a freshman. But he's awesome, and I just follow from what a big heart Larks has. He's always told me to pay it forward, and I think that's a great message. Now, that, of course, is a very small snippet of what is ultimately a 52-second answer with Jackie Redmond over here. But I find it so interesting just thinking about the link between Quinn and Dylan Larkin, the fact that both of these guys at one point were captains of their NHL team. Both of these guys were Michigan Wolverines. Both of these guys are now on Team USA, and both of these guys scored clutch goals to help the Americans beat the Swedes. There's a lot of illusion here, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, just to get a feel for the timeline of how things went down, Quinn Hughes was a Michigan Wolverine from 2017-18 to 2018-19. He only spent 2 years in the program. Dylan Larkin, on the other hand, by the time Larkin was in the NHL, Quinn Hughes hadn't even debuted with the Wolverines yet. So Larkin, he only had 1 season with Michigan, 47 points in 35 games in his draft plus 1 year. He then signed, he became a pro right away, and then was a really good Red Wing from the get-go. Now this season, he's on pace for 72 points, which honestly is seen as a little bit of a downgrade compared to what his total prime looks like. But D-Boss has been a leader. He embodies the spirit of the Red Wings. He is from Michigan. He played for the Wolverines. He is everything and more that you want out of a Detroit Red Wings captain. And my only question after hearing that Quinn Hughes was mentored by Dylan Larkin, essentially, he met the guy when he was super young. They both went through the same story and inevitably the same top status as NHL players. I do question whether or not Quinn Hughes would have been more so open to the idea of getting traded to the Detroit Red Wings. Jimmy Murphy went out there and tweeted this out after the fact. If only the Detroit Red Wings had this to get the extension and complete the trade. Wow. And, of course, There's a reply saying, the Red Wings will sign Quinn and keep their assets in 1.5 years. Does this change your opinion on how Steve Yzerman navigated the Quinn Hughes trade situation? We know the Detroit Red Wings, they wanted Quinn Hughes. Heck, you could even say that they were interested in Hughes back in 2018 when the guy was drafted. Although I will say, even though rumors had it that Quinn Hughes was a Michigan guy in the backyard of the Detroit Red Wings, rumor has it at the time they were actually more interested in Evan Bouchard because they wanted a right shot guy rather than a left shot guy in Quinn. But I guess we'll never know because they ended up taking Philip Zadina 6th overall. But despite the fact that Detroit passed up on the opportunity to take Quinn Hughes once, they were not able to make it happen this time around because Stevie Y doesn't want to give up assets for a guy who is not extended. And Quinn Hughes has extension accessibility in the 2026 summer period. He's not eligible to do that yet. So seeing the assets that it took Minnesota to get Vancouver to pry away Quinn Hughes, thinking about Marco Rossi, Zeev Buium, Liam Ogren, and a first-round pick, a 4 first-round pick caliber package asset, would the Detroit Red Wings have been able to match it? Now, we had gone through the entire song and dance of what Detroit has and hadn't, the first-round picks and Danielson and the prospects. Is there a Simon Edvinsson available there? Is there a Sandin Pellikka available there? There are a number of guys that you could toss out there. But I do question, had Steve Yzerman known that Quinn Hughes had such a big relationship with Dylan Larkin, there's a good mentorship going on there, had he known about that, does it make him more inclined to make that trade happen? Does it qualm Steve Yzerman's doubt about being able to trade for this guy and inevitably sign him should things actually go that way? I wonder whether or not that's an asset that I think Red Wings fans could latch onto, and whether or not there actually is a possibility that Steve Yzerman could end up getting Quinn Hughes anyway. Does he re-sign with the Minnesota Wild? I'd say at this point it seems a lot more likely that Quinn Hughes does stick around with Minnesota just because he's having such a blast with Team USA and Boldy and Faber, all these other American dudes. This Minnesota team is stacked with top-tier Americans, and obviously the team is winning now ever since Quinn got added onto it. He's been producing like crazy, the Wild have been scoring like crazy, so as long as the team is competitive and they can win, it does seem more so like Quinn would be willing to stick around. But if he doesn't do that with the Minnesota Wild, can Stevie Y get his paws on him and reunite these two former Wolverines? I say reunite, it's not like they played together. Dylan Larkin's like 4 years older than the guy, but he is a fellow Wolverine, a fellow American, a fellow Michigan dude, and now they're scoring goals together at the Olympics, defeating other Minnesota Wild players like Jesper Wallstedt, Philip Gustafsson. Lots of guys on there from the Minnesota team on Team Sweden. I just wanted to refresh the page over here. Whom exactly also suited up there? Marcus Johansson and Eriksson Ek. Yes, that's who it was. So America versus Sweden in Minnesota, if you really wanted to take that route. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Quinn Hughes speaking out about his mentor, Dylan Larkin? And does that change your perspective on what Stevie Y was debating amongst himself when it came to trading or not trading for Quinn Hughes back in December of last year? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.